All right, so we're going to talk about discipleship today, and it's something that we know is big in your ministry and big in our church. It's our mission statement, is that we want to make fully devoted followers of Jesus Christ, which is discipleship. And so the question I'd want to start off chatting with you and asking you first is, what is your definition of discipleship?
It's what Jesus did with the disciples. I know it's probably very whatever, type of answer, but it look at the Gospels. It's Jesus picking his men, and there was even a few women, that came along the way, and them walking with Jesus those three or so years, and just following him. Being there for the feedings, being there for the miracles, being there for the teachings, just watching, and doing what Jesus did. And for anyone, any mature follower, any follower of Jesus who's been following Jesus for a number of years, to take a new believer who loves Jesus and walk with them, for a few years.
Do you think it's something that is only done during, say, work hours, or is this something that's... No,
it's, nowhere in the Gospels did you hear, hey, see you tomorrow, hey, I'm going, they checked into their hotels, Holiday Inn, the Ramada or whatever, but no, they were always together. It's definitely not 9 to 5. It's, at least for me, I look at it as, they see the good, the bad, and the ugly. You do life together. So, for the guys that I had discipled early on, they saw, my wife and I married early on with no kids. Then a lot of them saw, Michaela was born, Elijah was born, and Simeon was born, and they've grown up just around that, seeing my kids. So no, it's definitely not 9 to 5. It's, you do life together. And they see everything, again, Jesus was with these guys all the time. And, not only did he see everything, but they also saw everything, and they saw each other's faults. No faults with Jesus, but they saw each other's faults, probably when they lost their tempers, when they got angry, or they got discouraged, or whatever. So I would say, definitely not 9 to 5.
Yeah, I would agree. I was looking at in Mark's account of the feeding the 5,000, and it's something that happens multiple times, but I thought it was very interesting how when they were going away to try to be alone, and all these people followed, 5,000 plus, and Jesus has compassion on them because he sees they're lost. And when he says about feeding them, you see how the disciples are questioning that. So what, are we supposed to go raise money to feed all them, or should we tell them to go get the food? And I find that interesting because here's Jesus now. He's going to preach to them, to the thousands that are there, but in the same time, he's still teaching them. He did the same thing with the woman at the well. And so I think the only way that can happen is if they do life together, is because Jesus is seeing all their flaws, which he obviously knows about, but and taking that time right then and there to teach them, not going back to it. So I think that the life part is very interesting, and how our families have to be a part of that, because we still have to disciple our families, our kids, our children, and things like that, so they get to see that. So what does discipleship look like in the church then?
I wish everybody was doing it. I feel like it's something that's somewhat, the church at large. I'm not just talking about Hawthorne Gospel. I feel like it's something that has been lost along the way. But it's just people, men and women, raising up disciples, followers of Jesus. So for me, or for anyone, it's a mature follower of Jesus walking along a younger Christian, a younger follower of Jesus, and reading through the Bible with them, praying with them regularly, you know, serving together, not serving in the church and also serving outside of the church, whether that's in local communities, whether that's you know, short-term missions or even long-term missions. You know, depends on, you know, each situation is differently, but definitely serving you know, together in the church, serving outside the church, and yeah, going through the Bible, praying, you know. And I always tell those that I spend a lot of time with, this works only if you go and do it after we're done. And it's, you know, for me, it's 3-4 years, 5 years. Some people have said I stay on too long with some of the guys, but I don't see a time frame on it, or a time limit on it. You know, usually it's, you know, 4 or 5 years through college, and then you know, and then a little bit later on. But it's just men and women, you know, who again are mature, walking with a younger Christian. And definitely you got to be reading the Bible together, like going through from Genesis to Revelation, and praying a lot, and just sharing your life with them. You know, get them come out. You know, help you with projects. You know, help you. You know, just with life. You know, let them spend time with your kids. You know, a lot of the guys, they'll come over. Even some of the girls that my wife mentors, you know, they'll play games with the kids, they'll take them to the movies, like with other, you know, Mikhail and Elijah are both in high school, so I see a lot of the young adults, and some of those that even have moved on from the young adults. Hey, we're hanging out, you know, why don't you come and hang out with us? You know, Elijah's 16, Mikhail's 17, and I think that's pretty cool too. So it's just, it's doing life together, it's community.
Yeah, I wonder if inside the church, because I know we're talking a church at whole, but I wonder if a lot of the people think that maybe discipleship is only for leaders to do, or even if they don't feel they're equipped to do it, which wouldn't be true. I mean, if they're walking with the Lord, and you know, but I wonder if it's just a confidence thing. But you said something too, is because while it may be easier in a sense for us to do it as leaders, I remember before I came here on staff here that I was still able to do it, because you just find different ways. I couldn't bring someone to work with me, but it could be simple things like, hey, I'm running to the store, I'm gonna pick you up, take a ride with me, I want to talk to you. Hey, let's meet tonight for a cup of coffee, and you know, let's look through the Bible together, let's pray together. Being there for all the tough stuff, the losses, the hurts, the struggles, the hard stuff, and I think it also, what's tough about it too is you really open yourself to making yourself so available. It's like there is no, like, and I think the account that Mark was talking about, the 5,000, is that even when Jesus was like, okay, let's take a break, it was really a break from the busyness. Is that he didn't get the break, and he didn't push them away. He didn't say, no, not now, let's reconvene later and I'll talk to these thousands of people. It was like, no, it's time now. It's this is what we're here for. And I think that's just hard sometimes for us to grasp, is that it's got to be, it's all the time, because you see it. I mean, I've people walk in your house at 9 o'clock. We're right in the middle of dinner, right? Yeah.
We have Eddie Santos, who tends to make an appearance at every premarital counseling. Every premarital counseling, as there's food there, we're eating, he just happens to show up for that free meal. And so it's always interesting. No, I don't think there is a break. I was going to say something. You know, I heard a story one time when Herman Brolin, who was the founding pastor here, and you know, he picked up a gentleman who wanted to get married, and so they began talking. But during their time in the car together, Herman Brolin would make these stops at people's houses. He was like visiting people, and he would, like, you know, hold on to that thought, young man, and he would go into the house for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. He'd come back out, and he would pick up the conversation, and you know, he did that a lot. You know, there's Pastor John. You know, I feel like he's mentored me. You know, me working on maintenance and just watching him, watching when his car comes in the parking lot and what he says, and what time he's leaving, just how he led early on. Like for me, me being a brand new Christian, just started here, and just seeing him, first one in the parking lot, a lot of times last one out of the parking lot, his allegiance, his, just teaching through the Bible every year, him holding the Bible up at the New Year's Eve service. This is what we're going to be about. This is what we're going to teach. And, and there was no breaks, for him. He was always here. It was the same thing with Herman Brolin. And so, I don't think you see it in the Bible too, where, they didn't take breaks. They were always together, and as long, that's what I wanted to say, as long as we're pointing them to Jesus, when they see our failures, when they see, when we fall, and you can call any of the guys, they probably all have 10 things. Well, you'd ask you would blow me up in a heartbeat. There, you probably have 10 things at the top of your head, that you could say, oh, Scott's failed in this area, or has come up short at certain times. But if we're always pointing to Jesus and He's the perfect one, then those that we disciple should be okay with, our failures or our mistakes, or or the mishaps, whatever we want to call it. But we always have to be pointing to Jesus, and and leave everything else up to God. So I'm okay with making mistakes. I'm okay with them seeing when me and my wife aren't getting along so well, or or I have to discipline my kids with punishment or whatever it might be. Or, if I'm driving down 208 and I don't have my seatbelt on, and the guy's like, "Ooh, you're supposed to wear your seatbelt," and then I put it on, whatever it is.
You're gonna get followed now. I like that too. Is you're using that example of seeing like Pastor John pull in the parking lot, seeing the time and how much he puts in, but. It's so that's kind of interesting too. Is you think that we should always be watching, so we're actually getting mentored even just by watching. And I could think about that when I first came to the church. Is when I got saved here at a church service, I spent a couple of years before I was entered into a discipleship just by watching, and I felt like I was being discipled just by being at different events and watching Christians who were way more mature than I was, and then it became an official mentorship several years later. But that would raise the next question then. It's like a two-part question. A, what does a mature Christian look like, and can a new believer be can a new believer disciple somebody else?
So what was the first one?
The first one is, what does a mature Christian look like?
Any someone who is able to admit that they are not perfect, that they are a sinner, but who still continues to pursue Jesus. And that's me. It's I am a sinner. I'm not perfect, but I love Jesus. And I'm people know that. People that know me well know that I love Jesus, but they also know that I'm not perfect. So for a mature Christian, is someone who's really, is just seeking after Jesus. It's their lifestyle. It's not like, oh, we come in here and let me sign in my pastor card, or let me sign in my leader card, or let me sign in my Sunday school teacher card. It's someone who's always, running after Jesus, or walking with Jesus. They're in the Word. They know the Word. They pray, and when you hear them pray, you feel like the mountains are going to move. Those that give selflessly, the people that I think of right away is like Dave and Joy Meyer. I love them. I've been teaching Sunday school here probably like 30 years. My son Simeon's been coming home lately, and he's in their class, and he tells me these stories, and I've been down there, and watched them teach. So they've been great examples of mature believers, and they would even tell you they're not perfect, But yeah, so I think again it comes down, are mature believer, are they're in the Word and they know the Word, they're living the Word. It's like the basics. That sometimes we miss. And what was the second question?
Well, first, so you would say, obviously, what you're saying too is that it does take time to mature, obviously, as a Christian, and
yeah, I always say it's crawl, walk, run. For those who just came to know Jesus, and you see some of them, and they want to. I'm going to be Billy Graham. I'm going to be Greg Laurie. I want to get up there and preach on Sunday. I'm going to talk to Pastor John.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. It's again, crawl, walk, run. Yeah. It all takes time. Mm-hmm. So it's crawling, walking, and then running. I don't think you can. Before you walk, you should be trying to run. There's these steps, but and God can do anything. I've seen God use new believers in awesome ways. Mm-hmm. But the Bible also talks about that, not giving someone that's new to the faith too much, or they might fall or get mm-hmm. puffed up, or pride would set in.
Yeah, and I think it's also good. I mean, obviously, there's no time limit necessarily on when someone can start discipling somebody, but I think you have to be in a place because you are leading somebody, and you want to make sure that you're leading them in the right way. So there is a lot to that, because we see how many times people are being led astray by whether it be false teachings or even like a worldly living, whereas even Christians can fall into that, right, into worldly living. So I definitely think there is a time and that you should probably be sitting under somebody before you start going out on your own, which you mentioned earlier about how once you're with these guys, now you're like, okay, the next step is now you go and do it. So last question, we'll hopefully end on this one, is there a wrong way to disciple someone?
Oh yeah. I was thinking about Jonathan, had sent me some questions just to, to get me going in my head, because it takes a lot. But yeah. And again, people get upset, whatever, but it's like, man, discipleship is not sitting in Starbucks and talking about Netflix or talking about, that could be a part later on. But I've tried all these new things, sit in a coffee shop and blah blah blah, and it's never worked for me ever. Maybe it's because I'm easily distracted and I got so many things going on in my head, but it really, to say, oh, I'm mentoring that person, and you're like spending an hour, like a month with them, or an hour a week with them, and I'm like, really, is that what really discipleship looks like? It's not what I see in the Bible. I mean, Jesus spent a lot of time with those men and even the women that were there. They all got to see his life, and probably 24 hours of it, or full days of it. I don't think mentoring's an hour. Because some people have said that to me. Oh, I'm mentoring I'm mentoring so and so, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's cool. Or I'm discipling them. Oh, that's cool. Like. And then, I say, hey, so what are you guys doing? And, well, we drink coffee, and whatever. And I'm like, that doesn't match up to, what Jesus was doing, or what the disciples did, what Paul did with a lot of the guys that we see in the Bible. So I would find it very, very hard to really influence someone or lead someone an hour a month or just an hour a week, and so I think it just looks, I don't know how effective that is. Mm-hmm. For me, it hasn't. I really need to be with people and I always say that to them. I say, listen, I'm not going to be able to do your math homework, or I'm not going to be able to do your college stuff, but I'm here just to point you to Jesus, and we're going to do life together. Right, we're gonna share meals, we're gonna break bread, we're gonna laugh, we're gonna cry, and we're gonna have a lot of fun. Mm.
Yeah, I want to jump on that for a minute too with what you said, because when you're in and I think it's good, obviously, and I know you do too because we've done it before, but I know it's good to sit at a meal with somebody. It's good to sit and have a cup of coffee, but the discipleship is tough to do there because it's a safe place. It's very guarded. It's going to prevent people from getting real. There's not going to be the more emotional conversations. They're not going to, and they're not going to see who the real us are either. Whoever's doing the discipling, and vice versa. We're not going to get to see the real them because of that fact. So where that may be a good part of it, of saying, hey, we're going to watch a movie or something together. That's great, because again, we do that. We have people who come over and maybe we'll have watch a movie, but I wouldn't call that. That's probably a part of the discipleship of welcoming them, that they're a part of your family and this is what we do. But I think the hard parts of the discipleship happen when either you're in ministry, walking, whether you're, we can speak on what we do, right? And in Patterson, just bringing someone along and saying, let's go walk the streets. This is how we minister here. This is what we're doing. Bringing someone, to an addictions meeting, bringing someone, going to a funeral with somebody. When you have somebody that and they're lost somebody, is going to that funeral and being there with them, crying with them, and things like that. There's a lot more to it than just that small part of the meeting. They need to see all the other stuff too, like you said. But
yeah, it's definitely I'm glad you touched up on a part of that, going into Patterson, serving, because the one of the guys, I've had a few guys in my life that have mentored me, but Pastor Tim Gentle was a guy that officially took me under his wing and spent at least 3 years with me, and a part of that discipleship was that we went to El Salvador together. And it doesn't have to be that far, but that was part of the deal when he said early on, we'll do a foreign mission trip together, and we're together, I don't know, I guess it was 10 days or 11 days, and a lot happened in that time, and I got to see him, God use him, and just and really be challenged. I was a young guy at the time, and really challenged in ways where I was taken out of my comfort zone. And all the things that he was teaching me, I had to use and put into play there, and it's huge. It's so important. It's not just this classroom setting where okay, we're going to read through the Bible and we're going to pray and then I'll see you next week. But man, it's going out into the world, and what we're learning together. That's another thing I want to say. What we're learning together is we're taking out and we're applying it. And I always tell the guys with mentoring, it's not a one-way street. This is a two-way street. Iron sharpens iron. And just as I'm teaching them, they're teaching me. And it's just great. It's been the most fruitful ministry in my 22 years now. Here at Hawthorne Gospel Church and also at Calvary Chapel, it's been the most fruitful. I don't know why more people aren't doing it, or they're not running towards this, because it's been so fruitful. To see the men and even the women my wife have who she has discipled. They're growing up and they're loving Jesus, and they're getting married and starting families who love Jesus, and they're doing it. You see some of these young guys that are going out and mentoring other guys and making disciples, and it's just been so fruitful. It's been really, really cool.
Yeah, that is cool, and I know we have people in our church that are doing it, and it's amazing how many are doing it behind closed doors. And we can name so many people, but for some reason, she came to my mind, was a Deb Banke. How many people she pours into, and you wouldn't even know it. Not meaning, because it's not, she just does it. It's part of her life, and I think that's the big part. Is it's part of her life. It's not an advertisement. It's just something that you see somebody, you go to them, you make them a part of your life, no matter how hard. And there's sometimes it gets hard, but my hope is that even just through this conversation, that it spurs people on who've maybe been at that point where they're a little nervous to do it, or that they come and ask, hey, how can I do this, or can you give me some tips on how you reach out to somebody? Because if we're all doing it, it'll be amazing how many.
Yeah, there's people doing it, and there's people doing it, but there's not enough people doing it.
Right.
It's hard. It's not easy because, again, you're doing life together, and but we definitely need more people doing it, and it's amazing. You hear stories about Deb Banky and her family, and just the wonderful ways they minister to people. But we need more families doing it. Any mature follower of Jesus can do it. You don't have to be a pastor. You don't have to be a leader. You just have to be someone who loves Jesus, who's you're in the Word. You're able to pray, and you're gonna serve together. Just you know what, and it don't have to be 10 people. So many people they come up to me, and think they gotta do 10 or 11, or they gotta do 8 or something. No, it's one life at a time. Just pray. God, bring somebody into my life who I can disciple, like Jesus did, and God will bring that person.
Yeah, that's a great point. So it just starts with willingness. Yeah. Well, let's hope that as we move forward, and especially after coming out of this pandemic thing, where there are a lot of hurting people out there, struggling people, that people, the mature Christians that we're surrounded by, will be willing and just allow God to send them people.
And for those people who are watching and just thinking read God's word, read God's word, and really study the life of Jesus, how he did it, what he did. Look at the Gospels, and look how he walked with these disciples, and really go from there. And there's I have several books, and then there's The Lost Art of Discipleship Making, and by Leroy Ames. Pastor Howie would say it's one of his favorite books on discipleship making. And you just do a little study, read, but really look at the life of Jesus, and you'd be amazed. You just see, he never gave up on him. Not even Peter, who sits there and denied him, 3 times, and we see at the end he's there. Peter, do you love me? Ask him 3 times. Just look and study the life of Jesus, and then go from there. But it's been the most fruitful time here at Hawthorne Gospels, making disciples. And I if that's all I ever did again, if that's all I do until the end, it's been worth it.
That's awesome. Well, thank you, Reverend. It's been great, and let's see what happens.